does your organization have jurisdiction over, say, like commercial real estate?
Yes, we have members, realtor members that do practice in the commercial real estate arena, whether it's just commercial office space, industrial property, so any type of properties that are outside that purview of the 1 to 4 family residential units as defined in the law. So we have a great membership base of realtor members that strictly work with clients and customers in the commercial, industrial, and those types of real estate markets.
I imagine there's probably going to be, in that area, a whole lot more shutdowns or impact because we're dealing with business. And I know there's SBA and others are involved, other agencies are involved.
Yes, and we're hearing the same thing on the commercial side. Maybe it'd be a little, like you're talking about, maybe to a little more severe degree. We haven't had any reports, or I have not gotten any calls, in terms from a commercial realtor yet, that they're experiencing just a devastating effect on being able to close because of an SBA loan or other federal agencies that they may deal with. But we do anticipate that to occur based on the government shutdown.
And one last question I have is, so right now what you're saying is that the office is closed, so therefore they cannot stop the implementation of the Biggers Waters Act. So that is ongoing. Am I correct?
That's what we're hearing. And even on the conference call with the coalition this morning, it's there under even the experts that were on that call. After reading the long dissertation from the government on the shutdown, it was their belief that Biggert Waters could continue to be implemented in terms of some of the aspects that FEMA is trying to get accomplished with implementation of the act.
So let me just follow that through if I can. So that means, how would a home buyer know what his insurance or her insurance is going to be?
I think that's a great question. I think you've hit on a lot of what we've been grappling with, that there's a lot of unknowns with the Biggert Waters Act in terms of how is FEMA going to implement. How many homes are we talking about that may be impacted by the new implementation of the Biggert Waters Act? And then not only how many homes, but to what degree will those homes be affected? When I mean what degree is, what are we looking at in terms of rate increases for these properties in the affected areas? I mean, as you know, around not only the state of Louisiana, but all the flood maps have not been completed yet in terms of finalized through that process that FEMA goes through with the local area governments to ensure that there's appeals process and everyone has a chance to be able to look at those and so forth. So there are a lot of unanswered questions that we're trying to get from FEMA as well to be able to help us better understand, to articulate the facts on how many properties are we talking about that may be affected, and number two, of those properties that are going to be severely impacted, what does severe mean to FEMA in terms of how much is the rate increase really going to, and I want to make something too that I think nobody really thinks about. They think about an individual that owns a piece of property that may be trying to purchase flood insurance, but this is going to affect an individual trying to sell that piece of property and also a potential buyer that is looking to buy that piece of property. And because if a buyer goes and realizes that their flood insurance premium now is going to cost them $8,000, $10,000 when it's costing that seller right now $800, pretty much that house would be deemed unsellable to many people. You might ask, what is our advice to realtors working with their clients and customers throughout the flood insurance issue right now? And that is, number one, we're asking our realtor members to sit down with their clients and have them go meet with their insurance agent early on in the transaction and have an elevation certificate at least run on the property, or an up-to-date elevation certificate, which will give them at least a better idea of what their premiums may look like moving forward, whether you're a buyer or a seller looking to renew your policy or obviously buy the home and purchase a new policy on the property.
Yeah, I'm just throwing this out in terms of that kind of scenario. I can imagine some possible contingency contracts, meaning that should the flood insurance be over X amount, then the deal is off, or somebody else pays, or whatever. I mean, those kind of issues, with that kind of uncertainty, I imagine would really be more likely than less likely.
We haven't heard any actual stories yet, but I agree that that could be a potential down the road, particularly as we get more and more, and certainly if we continue not to have the full facts or not know the full ramifications of implementation, certainly that could occur with individuals negotiating with these types of properties.
Now, are the people from FEMA, obviously there's a storm in the Gulf right now, and hopefully FEMA is around to be able to help everybody during and afterwards. But is FEMA, or the people around who need to be around in FEMA to be able to deal with this particular issue?
The conference call we had this morning actually touched on that subject, and it was the word that we received on the call that there were FEMA employees being furloughed, called back. In many cases, I think they were coming back on their own to be back in their positions, not knowing if they may get paid or not, but they were coming back to be able to do the things they need to do to not only protect the Gulf Coast area, but the citizens as well. So we're told that they are being called back to do some work during this period between tomorrow and I guess Monday or Tuesday. And I'd like to just, while we have it on here, it's a good opportunity to tell everybody to please, from Louisiana to Florida, please, take it seriously. We never know what these things are going to bring, but we certainly hope for not only Louisiana but the whole Gulf Coast that we don't have any flooding, we don't have any casualties, and we can certainly hope that we don't have the surge that will devastate properties and individuals' lives as well. So we pray for the whole Gulf Coast as we get through this weekend.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Norman Morris, for joining us here on BayouBuzz.com, and I'm sure we'll have a whole lot more questions later on down the road.
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve, for having me, and you have a great rest of the weekend.
Thank you.
Stay dry.